Hello and welcome to Whiteboard Project Management YouTube channel, your channel for online project management education, the tools and techniques in the practical way of the project management. This episode is a workshop episode for creating and developing the project schedule. Let's go to the PC and let's hit start. Welcome to Whiteboard Project Management. This is the first episode of creating a project schedule. This is a workshop of how to create the project schedule in the practical way. I am using in this episode Microsoft Project as my program to create the project schedule. There are many programs to create the project schedule, but I am using this because I have this installed in my PC. Okay, so first thing first, because before we start with our creating the project schedule, let me remind you about the previous episode, which we explained the developing project schedule. If you haven't seen this episode, pause this video, go back to the developing project schedule. I will leave a link down in the description of this video, and to just be clear what are the used forms of the project schedule, developing project schedule, because I'm using now here, as we said, activity list, we set the activity attribute, we set the activity duration, and we set the activity resource requirements, as well as the project milestone. Those are the important forms needed to create and developing the project schedule. Okay, now because we explained before in that episode the details of those forms. In this episode, I will not go into explanation of this, but I will just show you the practical way, because this is a workshop. Here we are explaining the practical things. Okay, so let me start sharing the screen. Okay, now I'm sharing my screen and share. Okay, so first thing, I just created this folder over here, so you can see here I can open. First, I will open the activity list. The activity list is simply could be in this way. Definitely each company has different forms that they are following some standards, but mainly the activity list, just to know what it contains. So first we need to mention the project, what is the title of the project and the date prepared. Definitely there are some revisions and document number and so on, but here we focus on the contents of this activity list. So you add the ID 1, 2, 3, 4 activities, then you just list the activities required for the project. That means if you have the contract and you just start defining the project activities, you need to put those activities here in this table. You start filling this table. What you need to do, you start thinking, okay, I want to buy the material, I want to prepare my tools, I want to prepare my people, I want to train my people, and you just mention all these activities over here, and this is a simple description and some detailed description beside it. So this is the activity list. Okay, once you have the activity list, you are starting with creating the resource requirements for the activity. As we mentioned, the resource requirements also is a simple way where you have in each activity, you have the work breakdown structure for the activity, you have the type of resources required, the quantity, and the assumptions. Means if I have activity which need to purchase material, you need some resources specified for those for this activity, and these resources could be the procurement department, could be the money, could be another car, and other things. So you just specify here if you need a procurement agents, so what are the numbers required, if you need material like wood, let's say, okay, how much the quantity, if you need some block or concrete or whatever, you just mention the quantity, and so on. For each activity, you have to mention the resource requirement for this activity. Okay, next, we will check the activity duration estimation. The duration estimation, the word estimation, be careful, estimation is important because estimation is based on different type of estimations. You have some estimations, we will come to it in different episodes, the analog estimation, the parametric estimation, the 3-point estimation, the paired estimation, and so on. So you have estimated your activity duration, and you put your activity description, you put your efforts of hours required to complete this activity, and then in total the duration estimation, because the calendar of the project could be different. You could work 8 hours a day, five days a week, or you could be on site working 24/7, and then the calendar is completely different. That means the duration estimation of 1 day here is different if you have different calendar. If this activity efforts takes 16 hours and you have working only 8 hours, that is 2 days. But if you are working 16 hours and your work is 24 hours a day, that means this is 1 day only. Okay, so you just fill these activity estimations, and then you have the activity attributes. Okay, activity attributes. So in this attribute, it is clearly mentioned that in each activity you have one attribute. Be careful. Each activity have one attribute. When you're developing the schedule, you open the activity list and you open the attributes of each activity, because you are describing the activity. You are describing here the detailed scope of work. Then this is important where you, for project developing, for predecessor, relationship, leads and lag, successor, relationship, lead and lag. We will explain here in this episode the lead and lag. The lead means it's leading the activity before, or lagging means once the activity finish, you have some lag period to start the other activity. Like you have concreting, then you have to wait like 20, 30 days, and then you start with other activities until the concrete is dry. Relationship means the activity is finish to finish, finish to start, start to finish, start to start, and whatever. Okay, so now the number and type of resource requirements and the skills requirement means I need labors, but what are the skills of those labors? You have to mention it here, because not each labor is equal to another labor. Each labor have different skills, is different, has different training, and had different capability. Other requirements of resources, type of efforts, location of performance, and so on and so on. So you just add this. Now, once we reach to this, we have the milestone list. The milestone list is simply defined as same as activity list, but it is a milestone. The milestone is an event which has a 0 duration. So it's a milestone. You fill the milestone, the description of the milestone, and the type. The milestone could be also, I use it from my practical way. I use this table, which I created my own. This table is very clear for you. When you start the project, you put your milestones. Okay. You put your milestones in each month of the project, what month of I'm starting, and you define it, whether it's a payment milestone, whether it's a penalty milestone, contractual, or it's a project, means you have internal internal milestone. And then when you start with you finish with creating the project, this we will come through it when you have the project baseline, and then you start monitoring and controlling the project schedule, where you have the forecast, the actual, and the status. Okay. Don't worry, we will come to all these descriptions, and we will try to fill this in other workshops. Today's workshop, we will create simple project to explain to you how to create this project. Okay, now we have explained those activities. Let's start with Microsoft project. First thing, when you start with Microsoft project, first thing, you need to create the project calendar. The project calendar is different, and you have to define the project calendar. So I am defining now here in this project change working hours. So you can see this is a standard where you have here working days, and you have here as a non-working days. So you define the your calendar. Here, this is not a workshop for learning the Microsoft project. If you are interested, I can do a separate learning of Microsoft project. So you will define your calendar, you will add your duration of the project, start and finish point. Then during this period, you add your holidays, you add your working days and your non-working days, special non-working days. So you define it, you name it, you can copy the calendar once you create your calendar. And this one, I will leave it as a standard. Okay, once you finish, I prefer to use automatic schedule from the beginning. Okay, now you need to start creating the project. First, you will take the milestone list, which we showed, and you start putting your milestones. So I will just mention a milestone, milestone A, milestone B, milestone C, okay, and milestone D. So I have 4 milestones defined in the project. But in each and every project, what we said, a project is a temporary endover. That means a project have definitely a start and finish. So we have to define milestones as start and finish. Okay. Now, I will, because it is a milestone, I will put here 0 days. Just mention 0 days. Okay. Don't worry for those dates. We will come to it later. Now we start planning. Then we put the duration, and then we start linking and scheduling. Scheduling could be crashing, could be fast tracking, and others. Okay, so I have my milestones now. Let me fill the activities. So let me consider that I have activity A, activity B, activity C, activity D, activity B. So I have now 4 milestones, okay, and 4 activities. Let me consider that first activity is taking me from the activity list, which I showed you here. Activity resources, activity list, activity duration. From this, let me consider that I have here activity A, and it takes me 2 days. So I will mention here 2 days. Let me consider the activity B is taking me 4 days. Activity C is 3 days, and activity D is 8 days. Okay? Those activities could be buying material, could be building, could be testing, handing over. Each other activity could be different. So now you just put the activities somehow. Okay. Now let us start linking. I always use here a predecessor and successor. Then I will add here the calendar. Task calendar. Okay. So you can see here that I don't have now any calendar, and this is important because most of the people forget to add the calendar, or they just add the calendar, then add another activity, and they forget to connect the calendar to this activity. That means you are just making a conflict in this project because you just forget to mention the calendar, the proper calendar. So as we mentioned, we are having the standard calendar over here. Okay. I will just copy this for all. So I have a standard, I have one calendar for each. There's a one line here. Or I will delete it. Okay. Now, when you start your project, activity A could be started. That means I will link those activities. Once activity A is started, B can start. Oh, A, B can start, link. Once B is starting, C can start. Then I will say once B is started, D can start. And once activity C is finished, the project is finished. And once activity D is finished, the project is finished. Now, let's connect the other milestones. So once activity A is finished, I have milestone A, B is finished, milestone B, C is finished, milestone C, D is finished, milestone D. So we have list of milestones. Definitely the milestones could be thrown through the sequence of the project. I just put it on the beginning to make it easier for you to describe in this way. So I will just put it in different color now. You can see that those are the milestones and those are the projects. Okay. We have the activities. We define the activities. Now it is important to start creating the resources required. So I will go just here and I will go to resource sheet and I will mention the people required, because in the activity resource requirements, we mentioned in each activity what are the type of resources required. So I will put those resources right here in the resource sheet and define the resource. Then I will assign the resource to the unit activity. Let's see it. So I have a person A, person B, person C, person D. Okay, this person is working according to rate of hours. Let me say that this person is working for $50 per hour, and his overtime is taking as a $70 per hour. Okay, this person, the rates could be different from different persons, but here just to simplify it. Okay, so I have people. Now I have material. So I have material, which is AA, material BB, CC, DD. I'm mentioning as A, B, C, D to clarify it, like A related to A, B related to B. But you can mention here the name Peter or Ahmed or Muhammad or Thomas or whatever. You just mention the name there, right in the resource name. So you will define it. Okay, activity A is material. This is also material, so I'm mentioning it as material. And this is also material. the cost of this material, let me say it's $100, this is $1,000, this is $50, and this is 500 US dollar. Okay, so you just mentioned it, and now you want to say, okay, this cost is at the start or at the end. Okay, this is important because the cost is occurred at the beginning of the project or the activity, or at the end of the activity, or during the activity, the cost will be increased. Mostly because the work is as a material have to be done once you have the material on site. Means that you already purchased the material, so the activity starts when you already paid this material to the supplier. So I'm putting it always on the start. Okay, I have my resources. I will go back to Gantt chart. Now I will start to assign activity resources. So activity A, double click. I can see the predecessors. So I will mention this activity A and AA. Here on B, I will be having person B and material B. And on C, I will have person C and material C. And on D, I will have person D and material D. Okay, we just assigned those, but I can say, okay, for activity B, I need also the person A to be including. So I will mention here, I will add person A and I will add person D. Okay, because the same person could work in different activities. So here we go. Here you can see, I will just mention it as zoom and view entire project. So you have here the activities, you have here the resources beside the activity. Now, you can see that there is here, you should mention, because each activity must have, to be clear, each activity must have a predecessor and a successor. If there is an activity without predecessor or successor, your planning is, your scheduling is wrong. Your scheduling is wrong. Go back, and each activity must have a predecessor and successor, because each activity, once it's started, there is something before as a condition to start this activity. Once this activity is finished, it's giving a delivery to another activity. If there is no other activity, then there is a milestone, or could be a finish milestone, because later, when you finish with all your activities, you need to start making the critical path analysis. Okay, so now you have these activities. Okay, let me start. I have a start. Once activity A is finished, I will put this milestone right behind the activity. Once it's finished, C behind C, D behind D, and finish is at the end. Okay, now you can see that the schedule is started. You can see it's shining now. Okay, it's filling now with information. You can see that, okay, I'll start my project. Once I'll start my project, I can start with this activity. So I'm preparing myself for this activity. Once you are looking for the next activity, the look ahead means today you need to focus to start this activity and the other activity, and give those activities a priority prior to start with giving activities to the other activity. Means I have to start preparing the material of activity A to be ready on site. Before, I will start with preparing activity D material to be ready on site. If I have activity D ready on site, I cannot start either with activity A, then the activity D material is just staying on site and somewhere in the warehouse without useful. So you need to prepare yourself. You need to have a look from this line and forward. Okay, from this line, which is the start of the project, or today's line, and look forward to see which activity start first, and you start giving this activity a priority to be executed, to be prepared. Okay, now you can see from this that these activities are finished to start up to the end, but this activity is finishing and wait until activity D is finished. That means this activity is floating. This activity is floating and could be delayed for some reason until here. Okay, so once you are reaching this point, you give the priority to the activity D, where you have the critical path. So let's just make the critical path, and here we go. You see that this is the critical path activity. Okay, if I put no filter, okay, let's filter according to milestones, and you can see those are the milestones. No filter, and it's in this way. Okay, now let me go to check my resources, because I planned my resources, and let me check resource usage. So I can see now from this that my resources are planned according to the working hours. You can see that activity A and milestones takes how many hours, and each person, A small is a person, A, he is involved in activity A and B, and his working hours are mentioned in this way. So you can hire this activity, this person, and you plan the person's hours according to those hours which are defined here. Meanwhile, person B is defined in this duration. So you have to arrange the person. If the person is dropped for a reason, he is sick, he is on another assigned to another project, or he's not available yet as an external resource, that means you have to find a replacement, or you have to shift this person to another, shift this activity to another duration. Be careful, always follow your resources, because you could be in schedule, but availability of your resources are limited, then your activity will be delayed. Resources are important to be prepared. As a project manager, you must check all the availability of your resources and ensure that the resources are available in a certain time and they are ready before they start. Means they are informed, they are well trained, they have prepared themselves, they know what to do. Once they start, they start. Okay. So this is now the finishing of the project, and we hope that this is, let's check the calendar as well. So we have the calendar. The calendar is ready now. You can see the activity of each calendar in each day. So you have the calendars ready. You can assign it also by week or customize it. Then you go to your network diagram. The network diagram is important here because the network diagram explains to you the schedule in a different way. Okay. So you can see that the network diagram is created automatically from the start, then activity A, B, D, and finish. The red line is your critical path. This is the critical path which you need to take care of it. And you can see that activity C is not red because it could be delayed. There is a floating time, which we mentioned over here. Gantt chart, and this is the activity C where you have this floating time. Okay. Now there is a team planner. You can see that A, B, C, D person who are working for which activity and which resource required. This is the main part where you can see the activities of the project. So I just explained to you how to develop the project. And next workshop, I will go into deep details of this project, and definitely we will make baseline. We will start updating the project, simulate the project somehow, and to see how you can create the reports from the project to another steps. Means deliver the project in a practical way and update the project, make the baseline. When the baseline is stopped and you create another baseline, what are the conditions, and so on. So this, I hope that this is has enough information for you and explain to you a lot of things required. So that was the workshop for developing project schedule. Hope that you enjoyed the episode, and see you in next episodes. Thank you.